It was blacked out.
Cool.
Let's see if that works. I think it did. I think it's working. Hi, everybody. It was blacked out. Oh, wait, mute that. Yes? Let's see if that works. I think it did. Hold on. I think it's working. Okay, I had to close that window so I couldn't hear that anymore.
I'm sure it's double checking something on my side too.
Good morning, good morning, good morning. It's Sheeta. I'm here with Latoya Hall and technical difficulties because that's but we are live now. And I'm so happy that you're here with us. Today we are talking about working remotely with a job in tech, which I want you guys all to know that as we talk about tech, this could be any industry. We're just talking about how to transition from working in the office to working from home to working anywhere in the world you want to work. So thank you for joining us. Thank you for being here, Latoya. Why don't you introduce yourself?
All right, cool. Hi, everyone. In YouTube land, I am Latoya Hall, Latoya Streets Hall, Instagram, if you want to find me there. I'm here as a up and coming future digital nomad and ready just to tell you guys how I made this transition and what I'm going to be up to over the next couple of months.
Awesome. Okay, so tell us, what are you going to be up to for the next couple of months? Tell us, actually, let's start at the beginning. What do you do in your day job?
So I work as a product designer in the tech industry. The most simplest way I can describe my job is like I build great user experiences for products on the internet. So mobile apps, websites, things like that. And so I really sit at the intersection of design, business, and technology. And so it's my job to make sure that all the interfaces that people use on the internet, at least for the companies I work for, work well, because when they don't work well, people get really upset. And so I spend a lot of time making efficient products for the internet.
Okay, awesome. And the company you work for, is it giant? Is it small? Tell us about that.
Yeah, so the company I work for is small. It's owned by a bigger company, but my last job was pretty big. It was like a mid-sized company, and I felt a lot of the challenges of working at a mid-sized company, and I knew that my next role I wanted to take on was going to be very, very small. So the team is about 50 people in total, and the design team we're about 5. So it's really small. And the design team I was on before was about 30 people. So it's a big shift.
Okay. And how long have you worked there?
I've been there since February, so not too long. But before that, I took a whole year off of work, almost a year off work, to just relax, honestly. My last job was very, very, very stressful and very, very demanding. And so I needed the time to like get my mental health in check, make sure what I was doing for a living I wanted to do, because when your job works you to your bone, like you're like, do I even like this? And so I needed some time to really return back to the passion I had for my career. But I also knew when I went back, if I was going to go back, and I did, it needed to be smaller, much more fun product, simple product. So the product that I actually work on is basically ESPN for Little League sports. So I get to really think about like making sure that the product I work on works well for coaches who coach kids anywhere from, 8 years old all the way up to like high school. So focused on working on building tools for the coaches for the website we're building, which is a brand new product for the company.
Awesome. And I think it's interesting that you seem to be in a phase where you're really taking control of your career. So you did the year off about where you're going back to, and now you're shifting to something new. So I want to talk about this shift.
Yep.
I want to ask you a question.
Okay.
That maybe you shouldn't answer on the internet, but we're going to talk about it anyway.
Okay.
Do you like your job?
Yes. No, my last one, no.
Okay. All right.
I do like my job a lot. For different reasons. I think that the product I'm working on is really fun. The team is really fun. And I don't have the stresses that I had before. And also I think what's really, really good about the job I currently have is I was able to show up in my interview as my whole entire self and also set my boundaries up front. Something I didn't know how to do before I took this break off of work, like last year, and to recover from a really burnout environment. And previously, prior to this particular role that I'm in, I was really in the hustle and grind mode and like just kind of keeping up with the Joneses of Silicon Valley and the Bay Area tech, where you got to work at the coolest, hottest tech company. And everyone's always talking about like, oh, I work at Google and Uber and all that stuff. And sometimes, at least for me, I'll speak for myself, it made me feel some type of way. I was like, well, I don't work at those companies, or you're comparing like, am I going to get a promotion? Am I going to get more money and all these things? And I also ultimately had to realize in my year off of work that those are not goals I'm trying to achieve from my life. And ultimately, what is important for me is to live my life according to my own standards. In the Bay Area, there's just this energy of hustle and grind and it doesn't fit well with me. And I was trying to fit into that. And I'm like, no, girl, you like to go travel. You're curious. You want to explore. You don't enjoy sitting at a desk all day instead of an office in meetings. And so, the pandemic really kind of helped kind of accelerate the future of work in terms of remote work. And so this role that I have right now, the company is actually based in New York City. And obviously I live in the Bay Area at the moment. And so I'm 100% remote now, which is also really great. Because the one thing I did learn from that year off of work was like, I'm not commuting. Commuting in the Bay Area sucks. Shit's exhausting. Terrible. It's fucking bad. And so I was like, I don't got it in me no more. I don't want to be in no bar. I don't want to be in my car. Like, you got me messed up if you think I'm ever going to get back on a commute in the Bay Area. And so that was one of the big requirements too, for me to go back to work. And don't get me wrong, I had moments of weakness where I was like interviewing with other companies, like, well, we want you to come into work. And I was like, I can't, and so it worked out that the company that I'm at, they're like, we're 100% remote. Even if they go back into the office, they're already hiring people around the country. So it's working out that I get to just do my job anywhere.
I was actually talking to someone the other day who is moving to the Bay Area, and I don't believe she's ever lived there before. Mm-hmm. And this is how you know she's never lived there before. She said something about she's going to be driving into work in San Francisco every day. And I was like, no, you're not.
Oh, girl. No. It's not as bad as it used to be because of the pandemic, right? And there's a lot of companies that are remote, but the traffic is back. Okay. It's just like,
I was like, the traffic, the tolls, the parking.
Oh, yeah. No. Tolls, girl. They be like $6 one way. Like, what?
Actually, $7 on the bridge now. What is the toll on the Bay Bridge now?
They have different prices. Okay. So it's like, I think it's like $7 during commute, $5 after hours or something like that, but $6 any other time. Like, it's ridiculous. And so
when I first moved to the Bay Area, it was $2. So when I go back with my cousin, I'm like, how? What?
Yeah, no, girl, $2. That was a long time ago, man.
Hey. But yes, it was a long time ago. Yes, it was $2 to cross that bridge. So now when I see people talk about commuting, I was like, the parking you gotta pay.
Yeah. And then there's parking. It's expensive. I mean, if that person that you're talking to, she can take BART or the bus. That's a much better.
Up on that commuter bus. Okay, yeah, this is not why y'all came. We have people who were like, why are they talking about the Bay Area?
I mean, look, it's real.
It's real. I love the Bay Area. I'll talk about it any chance I get. I'm a fan, but I'm also a fan of moving away when the time is right. So we're going to talk about that. But we have questions in the comments, y'all.
Okay.
Ready? All right. So my good buddy Stephanie wants to know what you did during your year off to recover from burnout.
Woo, girl. Oh my gosh. It was a very, very hard year. What did I do? Well, I remember the day after I quit, my body was so physically exhausted that I just stayed in bed all day. And I gave myself permission to do that. I took myself out to brunch, a really late brunch. I got a cat for like 5 days, so I thought I needed that, and it did not need that. That cat left after 5 days. Let me tell you, I was like, oh no, I'm not a pet person right now. I started exercising too. Honestly, burnout for people probably looks different. For me, it was like my mental health was not okay. And it was a lot of therapy. It was a lot of figuring out like, why do I feel like I'm going crazy? And I don't say that jokingly. I really was suffering from major depression because I was so unhappy and so like my brain was just constantly on for my job 24/7 for 2 years. That's a long time to be under stress. Like my body was releasing too much stress hormone, the cortisol, too much. I don't need all that. The body doesn't need all that. And so ultimately I did a lot of doctor's appointments to see like what's going on. And then there was also spending time with friends and family, which really helped a lot too. I did a little bit of traveling, and I also worked in a small business that really kept my mind occupied, kept my skills kind of fresh. And truthfully, I enjoyed not doing a damn thing. Okay. I truly enjoyed it. Like I used to think that productivity meant being busy, and I don't believe that anymore. I believe that rest is so important. Like, I'd rather rest and do one thing a day than try to fill my day up with like 5 or 6 things and say I was productive that day. Like, I don't believe in that. I don't believe in hustle or grind culture anymore. So truthfully, girl, I was also trying to hustle and find like back alley nail salons that were open, like all the things. It was a pandemic, right? So I was like, what's open? Where can I go to? I was just enjoying living my life. So there was nothing special I did to recover from burnout. I just allowed myself to just exist and be and change my perspective of what success looked like, and giving myself permission to just rest. And I think that's that's the hardest thing, but that's one of the most important things. Now, it was also equally challenging because we're in a pandemic, right? So you're like kind of stuck in your house. So that was one thing, but beach visits, walks, things like that, whatever I could do just to kind of return back to myself, which was the biggest thing I did. Oh, and therapy was also another big thing. And I went to therapy for 3 years, and my therapist was actually the person that helped me. She coached me almost for about 6 months before I actually quit. Like, she was just like, girl, what's the worst that can happen if you quit your job, And so, with the help of her holding my hand essentially for 9 months prior to me quitting, I really leaned on her when I was kind of going through that transition of like, crap, I didn't lose my job. I quit my job. What do I do?
Okay. All right. So we have more. Thank you for that answer. We have more questions in the comments, but someone is jumping ahead. Someone has joined us in the comments, and they're jumping ahead.
Okay.
We're not do that yet, Brandy. We see you.
No.
I'm gonna get to that question. Brandy's here. And hey, everybody else watching the video live, and everybody who catches us on the replay. If you're watching the replay and you have questions, you can drop them in the comments. I want to make sure Latoya comes in here and says hi to y'all.
I'm on YouTube all the time. Okay, I love me some YouTube.
I will be in here saying hi to y'all. So if definitely if you have questions, you can drop them in the comments. Okay, you're leaving the Bay Area.
Yeah.
We talked about how we love the Bay Area. Besides the commute, we love the Bay Area. So why are you choosing to leave the Bay Area?
Well, I'm born and raised in the Bay Area. I'm one of the few natives that are still left in the area. And so for me, every single thing I know and every single person I know is here. But it's becoming a place where I feel like I can't thrive. Cost of living is really high here. I'm like renting an apartment's high. I'm like, how do I even get ahead? The other thing that's really driving me out of the Bay Area is that the energy here is still very hustle and grind, even though people are working at home. And that actually, I do feed off that energy a lot. And it's not uncommon to find people having conversations about stock options and like IPOs and buying homes and like talking about work. There's a lot of talking about work that I don't want to listen to anymore. I want to actually, like, I think life is so much more than work. And it's funny, I'm out here with some friends in Tahoe right now. And we're talking that like millennials, we don't, like a lot of millennials are not religious and don't believe in religion or not religious. And so they replace their religion values with work. That's where they get their sense of self from. And I was that person, but that was killing my soul because that's not actually who I truly am inside. Like, I'm a creative, I'm an explorer, I'm an adventurer, and I need to really lean into that energy. And that's not what I was really getting and feeling in the Bay Area. And then ultimately too, I did a year abroad when I was in undergrad. So I lived in London for a year and I had a chance to see the world and experience it. And I traveled around Europe. And I was actually the happiest I was in my whole entire life in that 1 year. And I want to return back to that happiness. And that's where, like, I feel like myself more when I'm away from the Bay Area. I think right now when I'm in the Bay, it's like, I don't know. I just don't feel like I can have the room to really just blossom. I just don't. it just feels like a cloud over me all the time. And I actually feel so much better when I'm just away. So it was a hard decision to be like, I'm going to go, like, I'm just going to go get up and move. But once I finally got over like the fear, I feel so happy. I'm like so excited. And even like 2.5 weeks, I'm like, oh, I can't wait to go and just go back to being me and the way I know myself, you know, like in the Bay, I don't recognize myself.
That's amazing since it's your home, right? Like it's weird to feel foreign in your home.
Yeah. And the Bay's changed. It's not what it was when I grew up. And the tech industry has really changed the environment. And it makes me a little frustrated though, that like a native can't really afford a place in a home to buy a home in her own hometown. You know, like I'm not spending $1 million on a home. I'm just not. And especially as a single woman, how the hell do I do that? You know, like where's that money coming from? Because I didn't grow up with money. So it's like another big thing is like, well, where can I go to actually achieve the quality of life I'm looking for? I know that I want and need. I don't want to have to rely on a partner per se to help me achieve the goals I want to reach in my own personal life. And I know that those goals can be achieved elsewhere outside the Bay Area, whether that's outside the US or just in general outside of California. This is the California and the Bay Area is becoming a place where it's becoming so gentrified that only the top wealthiest people can afford to live there.
Yeah. And even so, this is going to sound strange, but even like the wealthy people find it problematic.
Yes, very true. Yes, they do.
A lawyer at a firm, and his wife is a pediatrician, and he's always like, we can't afford a house. We can't afford a house. Like, you can't afford a house. Can't afford a house in the Bay Area. Like,
I want to say it's a pipe dream because I have friends that have bought, but I look at the prices that they bought for and what they got. I'm like, girl, I'm so proud of you, dude. I'm here for you. I'm celebrating, but that's not how I see my life.
Your choices.
You know, like I'm celebrating your choices, but my choices. And like real talk though, like it's easy. Like maybe I'm just easily influenced, but like when you have friends that are always talking about it, that energy comes into your own space. So you start thinking like, man, maybe I should do that. Maybe I should do this. And don't get me wrong, like I'm not even gonna front. I have those thoughts like, man, I need to go buy a spot, and you know. But I'm like, girl, where's this money coming from? I'm not trying to put down 5 or 6%. No, I'm not trying to have like a $4,000 mortgage. And then it became a realization that if I fall into this, I call it a trap because I think it's a whole entire trap in the Bay Area. Like I fall into this trap of like getting a tech company, joining a tech company, getting that big 6-figure salary that everyone talks about, you know, like you've made it, buying a property, but then you get worked down to your core because tech works you're like stuck and then you buy your house. So you're stuck like in the job, paying the mortgage. And it's just like the cycle, you're just saying a rat race. And I was like, that don't sound good to me. Yeah. I know that's what traditional people, like the tradition is, or the conventional way, but I'm like, I'd rather go live an unconventional life and do me than to be following the Joneses, as my family would say. Like, why I want to do that? I'm gonna mess up when I follow what other people are doing versus what I know my internal spirit and energy needs to go do.
Right. And it's hard because there are parts of the traditional life that I'm like, I still kind of want that, right? Like,
I want the property. But I don't want it for $1 million.
I used to have a crew. We'd always go spinning. We were Soul Cycle. So, you know, I had my tech job because I go to Soul Cycle every weekend.
Right. You got money.
You didn't have a disposable income.
But it all across. Yeah.
And now every single one of them has a Peloton. One has 2. Love you, girl. You watch this. And like every once in a while, I see them and I'm like, I want to be part of the Peloton crew, but I'm like, but not bad enough, right?
Right. I legit want a Peloton.
What'd you say?
I want a Peloton too, and a tonal. I want all that. But I'm like,
well, what else do I want, right? Like, what else? And so for me, it's like, I know I live in Mexico this year. I don't know where I'm going to live next year. So I could buy, I can't get a Peloton in Mexico as far as I know, but I could buy a really expensive spin bike that is similar to it. But why? Where will I be trying to move it to next year, or will I have to resell it? Like, that's just not, like, I go to the gym. I just go to the gym and use the bike at the gym. Well, all my friends are like, look at all my.
The Pelotons are really interesting. It's just, it's one of those Instagrammable, like,
it's a
online brand.
It's kind of simple. Yeah, world. It's like I know luggage, right? That it's like a way luggage. I know that if I was in the Bay, I would have a pet. If I was living my old life, I would own a Peloton. And so it's interesting because for me, it's like, I can see based on my friends who have kept going down the same path, I can see a little bit of what my life would look like.
Yeah.
And there are some ways I'm like, I wish. And then there are other ways where I'm like, oh, no, thank you. Like,
yeah,
no, thank you. Okay. So we're here to talk about working remotely because you're going to. So now we're getting to the fun stuff.
Yeah.
The fun stuff. Okay. Once again, if you have questions, drop them in the comments. I'll be there for a second. But first, we got to talk about it. Where are you going?
So in about 2 weeks, I'm going to Playa de Carmen in Mexico. I'll be there for about a month. And then I am coming back to California, but that's for my niece's birthday. I promised my sister I would be there, and I'm not gonna miss a 1-year-old's birthday party. Like, girl, that's the most important one. So I'm gonna be there for that, and me and Brandy are actually going to go to Disneyland. So,
okay,
girl, you're on the calendar, Brandy. Girl, you're on the calendar. So, and then I'm gonna go to Mexico City for about 2 weeks, and then I go to Brazil for about a month, and that'll be in September. And then after that, I don't know. I'll probably play it by ear probably once August comes, I'll play it by ear to see what my next plans are going to be after September. But that's all I have for right now. I don't want to plan too far in advance. Like, I used to be a type A over planner, overachieving person. I'm like, yo, type B lifestyle is way better. I'm living in the moment and I'm planning maybe a few weeks in advance.
That's perfect. Okay. So why did you choose Playa del Carmen?
Oh, funny story. So one of my friends I'm here actually with in Tahoe right now, she moved to Playa de Carmen last year. And the whole entire year of the pandemic, she was like, girl, just come. It's so cheap. And I was like, no. And she's back visiting. So I came up here to Tahoe to visit another friend. And just hearing her story and like seeing her live actually on Instagram, I was like, this looked like fun. And so I think I was just like, fuck it, why not? I don't have a man, I don't have kids. My rent is now month to month. I am a free agent. My car is paid off. It was like all these different things that kind of freed me up. And I wanted to go somewhere also affordable. So I knew I had a friend in the area. I can afford to live there. It was close to home if I need to come home for anything, for example, my niece's birthday. So that was like the reasons why I decided to choose there. And also it has a really good expat community I've been seeing. And so I figured it'd be a bunch of fun, and why not? It's the first stop. So it seemed like a really easy stop to make.
Good. I love it.
And also it's open for Americans, right? So it's still a pandemic. So that's like the biggest thing. I can go there and not have to do all these restriction-based things.
Yes. So I've been sharing that this week. So I'm going to share this now in the comments, unrelated to anything we've been talking about. But if you're not sure, this is what I use. See, this is what I use if I'm not sure if a country's open for Americans. I go to this US News, now I gotta type. I go to this US News article, and it's what I check every time. Is this country, and it's only for Americans. Sorry, I don't have an article for everybody around the world. So this is specifically for if Americans can enter and what you have to do to enter. The reason I like this article is they update it every like 3 or 4 days.
Yeah.
So whenever you look, it's nice and fresh. I just put it in the comments, so you can go to the live comments to find that. It's just something I've done coaching this week, and I'm still up on my screen because I've used it like 4 or 5 times this week.
I've been using it too. I've been using it, like I've been looking at that same one because I just Google like what's open for me to go to. And I think it's the first thing that pops up on the Google search.
Yes.
And checking it out honestly for the last year. And I'm like, oh, okay, I can still go. And I also think another thing that's really pushing me to go to, or I feel more comfortable to go than I did last year, was like, I'm vaccinated from COVID. I think COVID is still something that's really big out here. And I think there was a lot of fear I had last year with COVID. And I'm like, I got asthma, what's going to happen if I, catch COVID? And so now that I'm vaccinated, and the fear of COVID's not really there for me anymore. Like, I know it's still around, but I feel safe. I know the precautions I need to take to stay safe and how to keep others safe by wearing my mask and things like that. So I feel much more comfortable now going outside the country and not catching COVID.
Good. I know. I'm up here in the US getting vaccinated too. And I think for me, it's that the vaccination, I didn't really want to get vaccinated right now, but the vaccination rollout in Mexico was so slowly that I feel like if I'm going to be down there among people, and I live in a place where there are workers who can't avoid me, right? Like there's doormen and office people and stuff that like I'm coming, like if I leave and cleaners that like cannot avoid me. So if I can do something to help reduce the chance that I get it, which will reduce the chance that they get it, I felt like I had to. So I got it, even though I didn't really want to, but
at some point, we're all going to have to get it if you choose to, right? But it does make life definitely a lot easier, especially if you want to go travel. It makes it a lot easier.
Yeah. Okay. So let's get to the comments. Real quick. So let me look for Brandy's. I know I saw hers. LA 6 foot glamazon. I have a picture in my mind right now. Okay. It's very descriptive. Can you chat about how you hope your daily schedule will look when you're in Mexico?
Oh, yeah. So, I mean, I still have to work. So what I'm hoping for, well, let me back up. Because I live in California and my company's actually based in New York, I've been starting work at 7 a.m. every single day, and I work until 3. That's kind of, it was cool in the beginning, now it's rough. And so I'm actually looking forward to starting work at 9 a.m. because the time zone change is actually in my benefit. And we'll spend my mornings like actually doing my self-care routine, which is exercising in the morning, having a great healthy breakfast, taking time to enjoy the sun, go to the beach because my Airbnb is really close to the beach, and like having that time for myself, which I just haven't been able to get. Then there's 8 hours of work. And then after work, we'll see. I know the weather is going to be really, really hot. So I imagine I will be inside for a minute or trying to just, I don't want to be inside. So I'll probably walk around. Truthfully, I don't know. I'm not a plan person. I'm like a explorer person. So I'll walk around and see what I can get into. There's a lot of events though that happen that I've been looking at that happen in Playa de Carmen. There's also Facebook groups. There's meetups. There's tons of things. My friend told me about salsa classes I can take. There's like a stadium you can do like exercise workouts as a group fitness. So I might really try to get into that and really figure out like what my new life will look like in a different environment, especially when I don't have the same, like people don't have access to me, right? So in the Bay, it's like, my mom will call, can you come over? My friend will be like, let's hang out. That's not there anymore. So I actually have more time to myself to really uncover more of myself and the things I like to do. And honestly, after a whole year of a pandemic where, anything you like to do, any hobby you had kind of got taken away from you. I was big on going to the yoga studio. And now I'm like, do I even like yoga anymore? And so I want to make sure I'm still committed to the interests that I had before pandemic while I'm in Mexico, or even discover new things. Like I would love to learn a self-defense or learn how to swim because I don't know how to swim. So seeing if there's classes out there I can take and just meet people. And I think also there's like a July 4th party happening. I'm like, oh, I'm gonna be there. So
I think one of the things I always tell people when they're planning a career break, and as I'm talking to you, I think it's true for people who are moving abroad and maybe just moving from one city to the next. Like there's like a certain thing that happens when you get to see who you are when you don't have to do anything. Like one of the things that you have been using to define your life, or the things that you're used to doing aren't there. Who are you? What do you want? What do you want to do when you don't have to do anything? Right? Like what do you do?
People don't have access to you, right? Like it's true. Like when I was living in the UK, I mean, I was so crafty. I was like constantly like doing fun nail designs on my nails in between classes, or I was taking a lot of Zumba classes. I was just living my best life, or I would just go into central London, just walk around. I like my lifestyle was very different. My behaviors were very different, but also the climate was different. So I think the climate's going to be a biggest change for me because it's going to be very hot there. And so I don't know truly what I'll get into just because of the weather. Like I don't want to be inside. I want to be some place that has air conditioning. Right. So we'll see what that looks like. But for right now, I don't know.
Okay. I mean, that's fair. That's fair. Let's see. I'm going to head back to the comments. I see people talking about Portugal. Oh, why did you choose Brazil? And tell us a little bit about what you're expecting from Brazil.
Yeah, so I have a friend in Brazil. And so we used to work together many years ago. And I just thought of him the other day. And I was like, hey, like, how are you? And so he was like, yeah, I'm still here. So I was like, I'll check, come down and check it out. There's also been some classes I've been taking online, and they have some in-person classes too in their school in Brazil. So I'm going to maybe pop in to see if I can do some in-person classes there. It's a little TBD on that. But for the most part, it's still a cheaper country. I've always wanted to go to Brazil. And then what makes it so clutch, I have a friend there. So I feel that can show me around. And we've already talked about like hopefully traveling together and checking out some of the bigger cities out there. So why not? And I also want to go to Colombia too. Medellin, I think, is on my list as well. And I've had some friends who've also lived there in that country as well. So they're like, oh, I got you. Like when you go, I'll tell you what to do. So I'm also interested in just exploring different part of the world. I've explored a lot of Europe, and I told myself like a year and a half or two ago, I wanted to explore Latin and South America next. So I'm just kind of, going to do that.
Awesome. Okay. So if you also want to work remotely, I'm dropping the Exodus Summit Remote Work Toolkit into the comments, and that will help you get tools that will be helpful for you if you're working remotely. But let's talk about the actual work and getting this approved or whatever you had to do. Mm-hmm. Did you talk to your job about where you're going to be working from?
Absolutely not. It's none of their business. Let me be very clear. I'm a contractor with my company. And so I'm not really, like, I look at my life as a employee, like as a worker, different from if I was a full-time employee. But I did talk to my manager, but I was like, hey, because my final resting place, my final landing spot is going to be LA. I know I'm moving to LA. I just know. And I've been wanting to go to LA for a while. And so I told him, I was like, hey, I'm thinking about moving to LA. He said, go for it. So he's very open. He's like, dude, you're young, no kids, like go for it. And, I don't think it would be an issue if I were traveling around, like as long for them to like, get your work done and we don't care. And that is like the biggest like blessing I could ever ask for, because they truly don't care as long as my work is done, And if it's an issue, like, hey, we need you to come back into the US, which I don't understand why, then sure, I'll come back. I won't be coming back to California, but for the most part, I don't see any major issues with me going abroad.
Okay. I know, but for some companies, they don't want you to for tax reasons, but I think it's usually like bigger companies who care more.
Yeah. I mean, I don't see what the issue, personally, I don't see what the issue is going to be as a contractor.
Yeah. As a contractor, it's different.
I mean, it's very, very different as a contractor, And so if I were to convert full time, it's just a matter of discussion. But it also doesn't mean that you can't do a hybrid of both, right? Like you could live in the US and then take a month to travel around if you wanted to. I don't think that, I don't think life has to be so black and white when it comes to like working remotely in a state of the US versus like going to travel. Because I know some companies were like, you can travel, but like for up to a month, right? They need to come back. But let me be really clear here. I own my own laptop. All the things I'm using, I own. So I don't feel ownership. Like no one has ownership over me in this job I'm at right now. I'm on my own time. And I think that's also the beauty of being a contractor. Like, hey, I can literally pick up and go to anywhere I want, as long as I'm doing my job that they're hiring me to do.
Okay. Good. Like the attitude. And I like that you're so boldly doing what you want on your terms. That's really important. I think a lot of us don't feel like it's possible, but you're showing us that it is.
It is possible. My manager is always like, when it comes to work, he's like, don't ask permission, just do it. And that's kind of the energy I have. Don't ask permission, just go. And if it's the problem, okay, well then I'll correct the problem. But when you ask for permission, and obviously this concept doesn't work for everything, but asking for permission, it's like, I just don't see the purpose. I really don't. Like, and I think that sometimes it makes a difference between someone who's going to be like bold and just go take charge and own their life and own whatever it is they're trying to do versus like going to someone else to get approval. I don't want anyone's approval. That's why I quit my job last year. I started a business because I'm like, I'm tired of having to have a manager and showing up for people and, being told what to do. And even though I'm a contractor and I'm working again, I still have my business I'm working on the side. I'm very clear with my manager about my boundaries. I have no problem saying what's on my mind, and he knows that. And so it has not been an issue. But when it is an issue, like just come talk to me and I'll correct. But I operate like, be bold, like go do what you want. And then if it's a problem, then you'll fix the problem. No one's going to fire you because you're not going to get fired from, I don't believe you'll get fired from your job for like going to go stay in Mexico for a month or two. No one's going to fire you. Nobody's not going to fire you. No. First of all, the biggest thing.
Okay, so I don't want to say that yet because I think there are people where it specifically says like you cannot work abroad, like government jobs and those kind of things.
Oh, okay. Well, that's different. I think private companies, I don't see why you can't go somewhere for a month. Because what if you were like, look, I got to go back home to other countries, see my grandma. I'm going to be working remotely, right? Like that is a thing that happens in some companies. You know what I mean? Like I've seen it in my own previous companies. Like my friend here, her partner's from Australia. And so he had to go back to Australia and she went with him. And she stayed in Australia for like 3 weeks. She was still doing her job. And so I think it's a conversation with your manager if like that, hey, I need to go do this. It's not asking, can I do this? It's like, I'm going to go do this and seeing what that is going to look like. No, I get it. I know everyone's not going to be as like brave to say those things to their manager. I don't care. Like, I'm like, look, this is what it is. But if you feel like you can't have that discussion with your manager, like ease into it, right? Maybe you want to go go to Mexico for a month remotely for it's in September. Maybe have that conversation back in June and kind of work on your manager to get you to that, or get him or her to that point of letting you go. If you're asking for permission, go do that experience that you want to go on.
So I think you have a point for a large number of jobs, but I want to warn the people out there that some of these jobs will fire you. Some of these jobs actually absolutely would, because they don't want to pay tax. If you open up tax liability for them in another country because you're doing work for them in that country, they will absolutely fire you. So know your job. Like I tell people all the time.
Know your job. Yeah, know your job.
You read your employee manual from front to back. No matter what job it is, read the whole thing, know what it says. If it doesn't say anything, it's up to you about whether you want to take the risk of working remotely in another country or not. And I tell people too, if you're taking the risk of working remotely and not telling your employer about it first, have a cushion. Have a plan in case you get fired.
Mm-hmm.
Not plan for it to happen, but just in case it happens, just in case someone finds out and they're salty. Because sometimes it's not about what's allowed or not. Sometimes it's about maybe your boss is just a hater, right? Or like they want to downsize. Like there's 1,000 reasons that that something bad could happen as far as
yeah. And it's just again, have a conversation. I mean, I will probably tell my manager like, hey, because I already told my product manager, I'm going to be in Mexico for a month. She's like, that's a great idea. I'll tell my manager. And I'm sure he's going to be like, that's really cool. So again, know your job, know your manager. But I also know when I was looking for my next role, I wanted a very chill environment. And that's what I got. Yes. I wanted a manager and that's what I got. Again, if it's a problem, fine. I'll come back into the US. It's not going to stop me from traveling though.
Right. But you have a role where it's most likely okay, right? You're a contractor for a small tech company where they're probably like, live your best life. I don't want people in my audience to hear this and think everyone can do the same thing.
Right. No, that's fair.
Because that is not the case. If you're going to go abroad and work remotely and you are intentionally hiding it from your employer, go on ahead and have a safety cushion, have some money put aside just in case. So working remotely within the US is usually like, it's usually super clear on how to do that. But working remotely abroad can lead to a few different issues for people. So I just want to make sure that everyone knows that read your manual, know what it says, see if you can sabbatical. Just see what's in there and see what the work remote policy is, because you never know. It could be okay.
True. I remember, maybe I should go talk to them. But it's true. It's true. Yeah.
You never know, because some companies will absolutely freak out about it. Especially depending on sometimes it'll matter where you're going, like.
And also, but how long you're going for, right? I mean, I like I said, I've seen it where it's like, okay, I'm going to be here for a couple of weeks. I've seen it where some employers not have issues with that. Now, sure, if you're like, I want to remote, like, or relocate to, for example, at my last job, one of the places we could have relocated to was Ireland, I think, or Norway.
Mm-hmm.
That is a big discussion. That's a whole entire discussion about relocation. And yeah, it has a lot of tax implications. But I think if you're choosing to like just kind of bounce around and come back into the US, it's probably not, I mean, I can't speak for them, but it may not be as big of a deal as it might sound.
It might not be. Have a savings plan. Have a plan, because what's a big deal to you and what's a big deal to your employer, especially if, what I want to say is that now when more people might be thinking about doing the same thing, like more people than before might be thinking of doing the same things, employers might start trying to like put a lid on some of that. So
that's fair.
Do what you got to do, but do it safely. Okay, so this next question on my list. If you have questions for me or for Latoya, drop them in the comments and we will chat about it. But the next question I had was, it's a twofold. How did you find your place in Playa del Carmen? Mm-hmm. And second, did you have any concerns when picking the places you were going to? Was Wi-Fi part of your consideration?
Oh yeah, I need Wi-Fi to do my job. So Wi-Fi is like my biggest, Wi-Fi and safety and location of where I'm going to be staying is my number one concern. Yeah. So for me, checking it, like I'm doing Airbnb. So checking in with the owner of the Airbnb, making sure the internet's stable. Also seeing there are co-working spaces in the area that I can go to that have stable internet. So I wouldn't be able to do my job. I don't think any digital nomad would be able to do their job without having internet.
So you checked on that ahead of time by talking to the Airbnb people. Okay. So I just wanted to see how you did that. And how did you find your place in Playa?
I used Airbnb.
Okay.
Because I have friends that have lived there, I sent them the link of like the locations I was going to be staying at. And they're like, oh yeah, that's a good location. I know that not everyone has that. So I also heavily rely on the reviews. Like I didn't pick any Airbnb that didn't have reviews yet. And so I was able to read the reviews of other people and see like, okay, the location's really good. Most of the location was really good and safety. And that was easy enough for me to make a decision for myself.
Okay. Airbnb, talk to friends. Oh, how long between the time you decided to do, when did you decide you're going to do this?
Maybe like 3.5 weeks ago.
Okay. That's a total of 6 weeks from thinking about it to leaving?
Yeah.
I like it. So you're moving pretty fast.
Yeah, I don't feel the need to think on it too much. Like I've been known to like, so here's the thing. I've been saying I want to leave out the Bay Area for years. And now my friends are like, okay, here you go again. And so I was like, commit to going. And so that's what I did.
All right, let's see. That's actually really impressive because I know some people, it's easy to think about it forever, like just think and kind of toss and turn on that decision. So deciding and then going is awesome. When do you want to settle back in the US, headed to LA? Like, do you have a date for that? How long is this adventure abroad?
Yeah, I was thinking about 6 months. Like I can see myself moving to LA in January or February of next year. But I'm not committed to that. but that's the timeline I'm looking for. So it's not going to be this like massive, like 1 year right now. I honestly, I don't know if I have the energy for it. And I've lived abroad, and so I've done the country hopping and all that. And I know the pros and the cons of it. And so I also really love having a home to come home to. So that's an energy I still have and want to keep. And so I've already started looking at, I already know where I'm going to move in LA, like neighborhood wise. So I'm already kind of making the plans to, and also saving the money too, to make that transition when I'm ready.
Okay. Which leads me to my next question. Have you worked out what your budget on the road, or like, let's say Mexico, have you figured out what like your Playa del Carmen budget will look like generally?
No,
okay.
Not yet. And I honestly, because I'm still living in the Bay Area on my Bay Area budget. So I think once I'm there, I'll be able to really see like what my expenses are going to be. And because I still have to maintain like some of the bills I have in America, like they're not going away. And so I'll be able to, like I said, just have more idea of what that looks like for me when I'm there. And that's just how I roll. Like I am not that kind of planner. I know there's some people who are very financially, like, not that I'm not financially responsible, but there's some people who will plan all of that out. And I'm not that person. Like I will plan when I'm there on the ground.
So I was going to ask you about the difference between your Bay Area budget and your remote travel budget.
Well, let me tell you, my Bay Area budget is a lot of money between rent, bills, food, toll, gas. But I lose a lot of bills. Like I don't have to pay for internet anymore, PG&E or gas and electric anymore. Gas, what's that? Internet's gone, so a lot of those utility bills I no longer have. My credit card bills, they're still going to be there because taking a whole year off of work you do accumulate, at least I did. I accumulated some debt, but I was okay with that. So those bills are still going to be there, but housing really goes down a lot. And food and your daily things really do go down. Like I was looking at, I was like, what do I want to get my eyebrows waxed or my legs waxed, right? And it was like full body wax for $35. And I was like, that's it? Like in the Bay, that would have costed me like $150 or $200 maybe, so you really do see a significant dip in your spending when you go to some place like Latin South America where the US dollar is really strong. Now in the UK, that ain't happening. In the UK, if that's where you choose to go, I can tell you exactly how much money you probably will need. I spent about $30,000 in 9 months living in the UK. It was that expensive. I don't expect to spend a fraction of that living in Latin America.
Okay. Question for you in the comments. Have you noticed any changes or shifts in the tech industry and with other tech employees as a result of COVID? A lot of employees across several sectors have reevaluated their work life. So are there like changes in the industry coming post-pandemic that you see?
I don't know. I mean, I think one of the biggest concerns that I can see and that I'm hearing from others is just work-life balance.
Okay.
Right now. The tech industry, not every company is like this, but, you do work a lot and you do really commit to your job. But when you blur the lines of home and work and you're just working at home and the whole world is shut down, people are starting to work a whole lot more. I have friends who work 80 hours a week. That's a lot of time. And I was working 80 hours a week in my last job. It's a lot of time. And it wasn't even a pandemic. I was commuting in all that time, And so the change I see is probably people being a little bit more demanding of companies really taking a stronger stance on employee wellness and mental health. Because you can't have a great productive company if your employees are burnt out and worn down to the ground, And so I think that's the biggest change. But truthfully, I think the tech industry is going to bounce back. I mean, people are going back into the office later on this year. The commuting has already started back. The traffic is already there. So I don't foresee any major changes from like just that standpoint. And also while I'm in tech, I don't work in Silicon Valley tech anymore. So I feel actually really far removed from that industry because I don't and I don't want to anymore because it's really toxic for me. So I don't have a better answer for you, but that's just from what I can see, it really is employees demanding more work-life balance.
Okay. Hopefully they get it.
I hope so.
What is your goal, your overall goal for the 6 months? What would you like to come out at the end as you're moving to LA? What do you want to leave that experience with?
I really would like to save a lot of money. That's like one of my number one goals, actually, is I want to be able to save, something that's really difficult to do in the Bay Area. I want to have a lot of fun. I want to like live my absolute best life, and explore and meet people and grow personally. Like personal growth you get from traveling is, you really can't compare it to anything. And I think I really want to establish me and my life away from like everything I know to be in the Bay Area today. Because right now in the Bay, I feel like I really do truly feel like I hear about my other friends' lives and I feel like I'm living their life, but I'm not living my own.
Okay.
And I want to live my own and, do me and have fun doing me and whatever that looks like.
All right. That's fair. It's a very good goal. It's a very good goal to have. All right. Let me see if we have more questions in the comments. Janelle asked what you did in the tech field. You answered it in the beginning, but if you can just give us a 1-sentence blurb, that'd be great.
Yeah, I'm a product designer. So digital. So I focus on designing user experiences for mobile apps and websites, primarily websites at this point in my career, but mobile apps is what I'm pretty passionate about too.
Okay, I think Rochelle is asking me, she said SOL, so I think she means me, although no one's ever done that before. So hey girl, hey. After Mexico, where do you want to explore next? If that's for me, I probably want to go back to Africa. I love Johannesburg, so I probably want to spend some time there. And go to, in Africa, I've only been to, I hate saying that, but I've been to South Africa, Egypt, Seychelles. I want to explore more. So that's what I would do. Let's see. Any more questions? Is there anything you have not told us that you think is relevant to your experience or you think people who want to work remotely should think about?
I don't know. I mean, I don't know if I haven't said anything. I think one of the biggest things that I think hold people back is the fear. And there's a lot of different types of fears. There's the fear around money. There's the fear, like, can I afford to do this? There's the fear around the unknown, like, is the city going to be safe? There's the fear of going by yourself. I'm an avid solo traveler. Almost 95% of the travels I've done alone. And all the travels I'm doing alone. Especially as a woman, you get really nervous about those things. And I think it's important to know that that's all very valid and like they're real concerns and real things that you are going to feel. Like there's that anxiety that comes up, but it's important to push through that. Mm-hmm. It's so important. The cheesy sayings like life ends or life begins at the end of your comfort zone. It's very, very true. And you start to realize, oh, I wasn't really worried about anything. Like these are irrational fears. And the other thing you start to realize is like these other cities you're going to, especially if you're going to a major city, they're not that much different than where you're living right now. Like there are people who wake up and go to work just like you, who have kids, maybe just like you, who have fears just like you. You know what I mean? Like it's easy to be afraid of another human that is from a different culture or country than you, but ultimately we're all kind of the same. Having your street smarts about you and your wits about you and your survival instinct, which ultimately comes up anyway when you're moving around like that and traveling. It's important to have those things, and that's what's going to keep you kind of on your feet, on your toes as you're moving around. But push past those irrational fears and know that it's possible for you to do. It's just about figuring out how to do it, committing to doing it, and then making an action plan and timeline to do it. You know, if you had asked me last year I was going to be doing this, the answer is no. But funny enough, I made a goal, I guess. I have another coach I work with. And I guess I told her back in January that I wanted to be a digital nomad in June. And here I am. So I had no idea I was working towards it, but it happened. It manifested itself. You know, so I think if you put an intention out there and you say, I know I want to do this, and committing to it, okay, the plans will come. Like the action steps you need to take will figure themselves out. But you have to move past that fear, because it just kind of holds you back. And then you realize, oh, this was girl going to London. That's nothing. Everyone here speaks English. I also think too, if you have that fear, let me back up. I think one of the easiest things you can do if you're like, I want to do this, but I don't know, go to a country that speaks English. That's like one of the easiest like transitions you can make, because you're still getting the exposure, but you feel comfortable because the language is the same. And that's why I chose the UK when I moved to outside the US the first time. Because then it was easy just to transition, because at least there was like a mutual understanding of language. Also, the culture is different. Like I had to learn that, but that was easy to do because we can mutually communicate.
Okay, that's awesome. Jasmine had a comment for you, and it was, I love this. I love how you've changed your perspective on what success looks like. I say this all the time. Success is defined by the individual. So proud of you.
Thank you. Yeah, it took a lot of work. Honestly, it was an identity shift. I mean, my whole identity was my career. And then I realized my career was killing me. So then what? And it's important to own that. You know, you don't have to be like everybody else. I feel like convention is cool and tradition is cool, but I know myself. I know that I'm an explorer and a traveler, and that's where I feel happy. And it's about following that inner happiness in your soul. Like that's really what guides you. That's what's guiding me. I'm like 3 weeks ago, I was kind of nervous, but now I'm like super excited. You know, I can't wait to go back out in the world and explore. And I think it's important to follow suit or follow through with that.
Yeah, it's important, especially because the position you're in is the position I was in when I was leaving. Like I had, besides my dog, who I rehomed to with a friend who loves him, a friend with 2 Pelotons. Hey, girl. Besides that, I had nothing holding me there. And I think that if you are, I don't know if it's a privilege, right? Like I don't know if being unmarried without kids is a privilege, but in this situation, it rarely is in this world, but in this situation, it truly is. When you get to make decisions that solely impact you for majorly, you know what I mean? Like me moving abroad impacted other people, but not to the same extent. So if you have an opportunity to pick up and go and change your life and see who you will be, do it. If you can do it, do it. If you don't like Stephanie always says this, like, no decision is forever. If you do it and you don't like it, you can always move back. You do it, if you have nothing holding you back, do it and just see what happens. If you, not that your family would hold you back, not that your kids or your husband are things that weigh you down. I would never say that. But in case you have children and a partner who are less excited about the idea, these are things you can talk through. Like, also don't let the idea that you're not a single woman be the thing that holds you back too, because your partner could be really excited about that. I actually had someone I've known from law school reach out to me and say, I actually had 2 people. I don't remember who the other one was. I remember who one was. I don't remember the other one. Say, my husband found your videos. Just randomly on the internet. A woman I know from, we didn't go to law school, but we knew each other in that time.
Yeah.
We didn't go together. Found me and said, my husband found your videos and now he wants to retire early and move abroad. And I was like, so what are we doing? Like, so what about that? Because even if it's your idea and you're excited about that, if your partner might actually be excited about that too, if you have the conversation with them. If you don't have a conversation with them, you'll never know. So.
Yeah. And then there's something you said too about like, it's easy to say it's a privilege when you don't have the partner or the kid and all those things. But one of the biggest struggles I had to get past was like, damn, I'm single, no kids, no partner. Right. So we do have that in America where you feel less than because you don't have what the society is telling that you need. And I spent a lot of my emotional time feeling like I needed to get those things. So actually feeling that emotion of like, I don't have that was taking away, like that thought process was taking away from me changing my perspective, being like, girl, you don't got it, go. And I think what it was, I forget, it was recently, and I get emotional because I'm like, damn, man, like, yeah, at some point I do want all those things. I don't have them right now. And it's challenging when all your friends around you are talking about babies or having them or wanting them. And it makes you feel like, oh, I should want those things too. And then you should think, well, I don't got it. And then everything on social media is about babies and a man. And it's like, oh Lord, it's everywhere. But I realized, like I said earlier, I was living someone else's life. I was choosing to want the things that they were bragging about and talking about. And like, actually, I want to go do something different that lights me up inside. Yes. And maybe I will come to a point where I do have the partner and the kids and the house and all that stuff. But right now I'm like, well, let me take advantage of the fact that this privilege, that I am kind of like lightweight right now as a person. And there's nothing wrong with that. In fact, I'm very much looking forward to finding a man who's emotionally available outside the United States. Okay. Because that's the next thing. Let me tell you, people will be like, you're so single? Yeah, I'm single because men, if you're emotionally unavailable, and so it's about changing the perspective and like, looking at your situation a little bit differently and what you can do. And again, just because you have kids or a partner does not mean these things are not in reach. They actually really, really are. You have to just do some finagling. You have to figure it out for your family situation and your unique situation. My situation is unique to me, So that's all I wanted to say to that, because I know it's easy to feel like I don't have the things my friends have, and I should want those things. But sometimes what you truly want is different from what they want.
Right. A question from so-and-so. I love your name. So I'm going to ask you, did you have resistance from your family or from loved ones about
yeah. So, well, my mom is kind of used to me. Like, I've lived abroad before, so she got used to my daughter's not around. My grandma, so let me back up. So I was raised by a single parent mom and my grandma. So, it's just three of us. So I moved to the UK for the first time. They were like, girl, no. I went anyway. I'm very rebellious. That's me. I'm very, very rebellious. I'm gonna do what I want. But once they kind of got used to me being gone, and back then we were using Skype a lot, they got used to it. Now my mom's kind of like, well, go do what you want, girl. Like, I can't stop. She's a little concerned. She's like, can you still work? I'm like, yes. She's like, is it gonna be safe? Yes. My grandma's like, well, bring me something back. Completely different. She was the first person when I went to the UK. She was like, no. Now she's like, well, bring me a gift back, please. And she's like, go. And so it's different. I know. So, but I understand the first time you try to do it, people are going to have hesitation, and that's because I think that my own personal belief is that you don't know what you don't know. You think these different cities are like super dangerous and there's criminals and it's not safe. Again, you're going to show up in a major city and people are going to work during commute hours, just like you. There's a pandemic still happening in the world, just like there is one here. People's behaviors are actually very similar to other parts of the world. Now, if you're going to really rural and remote, I can see like maybe that might be a little bit more questionable. But if you're choosing to relocate to a major city, I think your family, like communicating with your family, helping them understand is not going to be that much different than where I am at today. I was choosing to have a different experience. I definitely know there's going to be some resistance met. I also, so like my father said some comment like, you don't even drink. Why are you going to Mexico? I'm like, excuse me. So you're going to have those deterrents, but you have to stay steadfast and know what you want to do.
I can hear my mom was watching the video and I heard her laugh. I can hear her cackle at that comment from your dad in the other room.
Yeah, that's what he said. Okay. Now.
Advice from me to anyone else who's thinking about making this move, because I talk to people a lot about this, because it's what I do. I coach people who are making moves like this. Yeah. And I'll drop a link to my coaching services in a minute. But what I'm dropping a link for now is for the Facebook group that I run with Stephanie Perry. It's called Exodus Summit. I know a lot of you know it and a lot of you are in it. It is open for Black women and Black women only who want to move abroad, who are looking for a community that supports them. So what I tell my advice is my advice isn't to join this specific Facebook group. My advice is to not tell people that you're making the move unless you need their financial, some kind of support for you, right? Unless you need them to make the move, don't tell them you're making the move until you're already committed. Because the people in your life who are scared, who try to love you through expressing their fears are going to come on hot and heavy. They are going to be like, listen, I tried to go to Egypt once. I was planning a trip to Cairo, and my mom, I know you're listening. My mom was like, it was right like after the Arab Spring. So I was like, everything's cheap, let's go. So I told my mom I booked a ticket to Cairo, and she was like, but they'll kill you. And I was like, who's gonna kill me in Cairo? What? Mm-hmm. Now really, what they'll kill you meant was, I want to go too. It meant like, you can't go alone. It's unsafe for you to go alone. So your mom should go with you. So go ahead and buy your mom a ticket. That's what it meant. And that's how it rolled out to be. But for a lot of us, when we're thinking of moving abroad, your people don't want they don't want to go with you. They just don't want you to go, because then you're leaving them and it's the unknown. And they'll say things that not everyone will have this experience, but in a lot of families, they'll say things that feel hurtful and unsupportive. Mm-hmm. Because it's all they have. They're like they don't mean to hurt you.
Yeah, it's very true.
But it'll happen.
And it's so I say it's your friends too.
Yeah, it's your friends. And so I just had a conversation last night about people on Twitter, about people who say, must be nice. You tell them you're moving to Mexico. Must be nice.
That one really hurts actually. That one stings my head. I'm like, ooh, jealous.
And what I said to people was that must be nice never sounds supportive. Must be nice. If you say must be nice and think it's coming off as supportive, it's not supportive. It is not nothing. It sounds like hating. It sounds like jealousy. So if someone says something to you and your reaction is some version of must be nice or aren't you lucky? Like that's not.
Yeah.
Just hold that back inside. You ain't got to say that. Just smile and nod and say, oh, great. Like that's better than must be nice. But okay, so if you're not going to tell your friends and family, find a group that's meant for you of people who are doing the same thing that will support you. That's why I shared the link to Exodus Summit. If you're a Black woman, if you want to move abroad, if you want to work abroad, we have a lot of resources for that. You can join the group. If you're not a Black woman, there's another group out there for you anyway. Please don't try to join the group if you're not a Black woman, because there are no exceptions. Thanks. And the only way we know you're a Black woman is if you have a photo in your profile and photos that are available for us to see on your page. If you have a cartoon character as a profile, we will not be approving you. Thanks. Just because we want it to be a really safe space for Black women, we don't allow trolls in there. It is only about moving abroad, taking a career break, working remotely, those kind of things. It's not for people who want to come in and leave negative shade remarks about Black women, which is typically what happens in open groups. So I think, okay, hold on. Ludell says,
go for it. So it's about being committed to go. I think that's a really good point. Like, I didn't tell any of my friends or family until I bought the ticket and gave my notice to my landlord. Because then I would have been met with like the negative comments or the concerns, and that's a big deterrent. So it's not just like committed, like, yeah, I want to do this. It's like you book the flight, the one way or whatever it's going to be, and you go. And then people have no other choice but to follow suit with you.
Yes. It's too late after that. But in the planning phase, find other people who support you. If it's your friends, there will be some must be nice. It'll happen from like the place you expected the least. Remember, it's not about you. It's not about your relationship with them. It's solely about them. Solely about them and something going on with them. It's not about what you're doing. It's not about your relationship. It's them. Okay, Ludell says, my mom totally won't get it, but she'll have to accept it. My sister doesn't get it, but she knows I'm responsible. And then you go. You live your life. It'll be fine.
And all also, right. Like, do we need permission from our parents when we're adults?
Okay, so I think there is, for Black women specifically, there's the difference between needing permission and feeling responsible. So a lot of us carry the weight of our families, and a lot of us
that's very true.
Be responsible child, the one who always takes care of everything. And so sometimes when it leaves, for a lot of the women I talk to, it feels like they're leaving, they're not there, not in just regular times, but what if something happens and I'm not there is often like the permission. Like we don't want, of course, we don't want to upset our family. We don't want.
No, that's real. That's real. And I do feel that though. I felt that. I think that's what kept me in the Bay Area for a lot of time. I'm like, well, I worked really hard. I do support my family in some ways. But what I got to was like, my family has had the opportunity to live their life and be my age. Mm-hmm. They made their choices. It is unfair for me at this age where I'm young and I have all this life left in me to live and I want to live it, to be responsible for other people who've already been this age, right? Like for example, my grandmother, she's not doing so hot. My mom's taking care of her. And sometimes I'm like, man, I should really stay back. But I'm like, my mom has been 32 years old. Mm-hmm. She had a good old time at 32. She had me. She was still dating and out and about. I deserve that same opportunity. I only get to be this age once. And I think that's what changed my perspective. Like, they're going to be fine. And if they're not fine, I will come back and check in and see what's going on. Like, we cannot be so codependent on each other and call that our lives. No, you have one life to live. I know it's cheesy, but you have one life. Go live it, have fun, explore it. Mm-hmm. And your family, I can't say this for everyone, but they'll probably be okay. And in some ways, you might be better. You might be in a better capacity to support them. You're not there. Because when you come back home after being abroad, you're a much different person with a different capacity for things. You've seen a lot of different things. And so you could be a beneficial, like a better, again, resource to them when you do decide to return, if you return. But I think the biggest thing is like not feeling like responsible for other people's lives, because you have your own life to live and you have to go be steadfast and true to you.
Listen, that was a good one. And on that note, we are going to wrap it up. Thank you so much for joining me today, Latoya. And a lot of love in the comments. Elle said, Latoya, preach. Sandra, real quick. Sandra says, at what age is too old to start living and working abroad? No age.
Oh, no age. Look, in the UK, they go on gap years after high school. So they're 18 years old, taking a year off of work or a year off of school to go travel around. I was 21 when I first moved to the UK. So it's actually something that outside the US people do all the time. Like, I can't speak for other countries, but definitely in Europe, gap year is a thing. Even in high school, they have some international programs where students go abroad. I know some of my friends from high school went abroad to Europe for like a week or two. You're never too old or too young to go. I think the younger you do it, the more exposure you get, the better. But
But I have a lot of I was going to say a lot of older women, but I'm not going to say that. So you didn't.
Well, no. And I was getting to that point. I was getting to that point, like, there's a other spectrum of like, oh, I don't get paid. There's no such thing as old. Okay. But let's say you are, you're not in your 20s and 30s anymore. You're past that, and you're like, damn, should I still do this? Yes, because there actually is a big community of people your age out there who don't want to have that traditional life that they were like, working, slaving away behind a desk all the time. There's plenty of people your age or our age, any age, traveling the world. There's no right or wrong time. The time is now. The time is to go. If your soul and your heart and your desire is there, just do it. Push past the fear, push past any judgments or biases you have in your mind about what it is you want to do, and just do it. And you'll find your community when you get to wherever it is you're trying to go. And your community is everywhere around the world.
Yes. There is a group, I don't know the name of the group, but someone in here is a member. There is a group for older Black women who want to become expats, that someone who is part of the Exodus Summit created. I don't remember the name of the group. If I do remember it, I will drop it in the descriptions. It's for women who are 60 plus. And if any of you remember, you can't drop it in the comments now because you can't drop links, but you can write the name of the group, the Facebook group, if you know it, write that in, so we can all have that. People who are older and want to go, you're definitely never too old as long as there's still life in your body. Make it happen. I'm wishing you all the best. Latoya, thank you for joining me today. This was great. I know you motivated a bunch of people.
I hope so.
Start reading that manual, seeing what they can do.
Read the manual, because I'm about to go read mine. But even if it says, I'm like, it's just a conversation, okay?
Manual. All right. Thanks a lot, y'all. And I will see you guys next week. If you're watching it on the replay, leave me a comment and say, hey, and let me know if you want to work remotely in another country, or you're like, nah, if I leave, I'm not working for another company. I'm leaving. I'm quitting and leaving. So if you want to live remote, you also want to work remote. That's my question for you in the comments. And until next time, bye.